The Iroquois Theater Fire. How Chicago's safest theater became its deadliest trap. December 30th, 1903, Chicago, Illinois. Part 1. The most beautiful theater in America. 10 a.m. December 30th, 1903, Chicago, Illinois. The city is in the middle of the Christmas holiday week. School is out. Offices are closed. The department stores on State Street are still decorated with wreaths and ribbons from the holiday. The temperature outside is below freezing, a gray, bitter Chicago winter morning that drives people indoors. Toward warmth, toward light, toward the kind of place where you can forget the cold for a few hours. For more than 2,000 people on this particular morning, that place is the Iroquois Theater. It sits on Randolph Street in the heart of the Loop, Chicago's downtown theater district. It opened just 5 weeks ago, on November 23rd, and already it is the talk of the city. The newspapers have run out of superlatives. The Chicago Tribune called it a virtual temple of beauty. The Inter-Ocean declared it absolutely fireproof. The owners said the same thing themselves, repeatedly, to anyone who would listen. Absolutely fireproof. The Iroquois is a masterpiece. Its facade is classical limestone. Its lobby is marble and mahogany. Its auditorium seats over 1,700 people in orchestra, dress circle, and 2 balconies rising steeply toward an ornate ceiling painted in gold and crimson. The stage is one of the largest in America, 75 feet wide, with a flyloft rising 80 feet above the stage floor. For the holiday week, they have booked Mr. Bluebeard, a lavish musical extravaganza starring Eddie Foy, one of the most popular comedians in America. The show is a sensation. Every performance sold out. On this Tuesday morning, the matinee has attracted a crowd that exceeds the theater's legal capacity. The fire marshal has set the limit at 1,700. Today, there are somewhere between 1,900 and 2,200 people inside. Most of them are women and children. It is the holiday week. Fathers are at work. Mothers have brought their daughters, their sons, their nieces and nephews for a treat. A spectacular show on a cold winter day. None of them know what the theater's owners know. None of them know what the fire marshal knows. None of them know that the building they are sitting in, the most beautiful, the most modern, the absolutely fireproof Iroquois Theater, is a death trap. Part 2. What they knew and didn't fix. The Iroquois Theater opened on November 23, 1903. It was not ready. The construction had been rushed. The owners had a booking, Mr. Bluebeard and Eddie Foy, a guaranteed moneymaker, and they were not going to delay the opening for something as inconvenient as finishing the building properly. The theater opened with a long list of unresolved safety issues that every person involved knew about. The fire exits were inadequate. Many were unfinished, blocked, inaccessible. Some exit doors opened inward instead of outward. A fatal design error that would become obvious only when a crowd tried to push through them simultaneously. Others were fitted with European-style locks, bascule locks, rotating iron bars that held the doors shut. To open them, you had to lift the bar and rotate it. In a panic, in the dark, with hundreds of people pressing from behind, they were effectively impossible to open. Some exit doors had heavy velvet curtains hanging in front of them, curtains that matched the theater's interior decoration, curtains that concealed the exits from view. Beautiful curtains, deadly curtains. The asbestos fire curtain, the heavy curtain designed to drop between the stage and the audience and seal off a stage fire, had been installed but never properly tested. Its guides were improperly fitted. Its edges did not seal against the walls, and at the bottom of the curtain, a metal cable clamp protruded in a way that would cause it to jam halfway down. The fire hoses backstage, the hoses that stagehands were supposed to use to fight a small fire before it became a large one, were not connected to the water supply. They hung on the walls, decorative and useless. The fire marshal of Chicago had inspected the Iroquois before it opened. He had sent a list of required corrections to the owners. The list was detailed and specific. The corrections were not made. The theater opened anyway. The fire marshal did not close it. This is important. The owners of the Iroquois Theater did not stumble into disaster through ignorance. They were warned. The fire marshal was warned. The city was warned. And the decision, not a mistake, a decision, was made to open the theater and fill it with audiences while the safety systems remained broken. They were making money. The show was a hit. The safety issues could wait. Part 3. Mr. Bluebeard. The matinee performance of Mr. Bluebeard began at 2 p.m. The theater was overflowing. Standing room only in the back of the orchestra. Every balcony seat taken. The upper balconies packed so tightly that latecomers had difficulty finding a place to stand. The first act went smoothly. 2,000 mothers and children laughed and applauded and forgot about the cold outside. The second act opened with a number called In the Pale Moonlight, a chorus number. 60 performers in elaborate costumes, set against a backdrop of artificial moonlight created by powerful arc lights on a bridge above the stage. It was one of these arc lights that started the fire. The arc light sparked and ignited a muslin curtain near the light. The fire was small at first. A stagehand saw it and tried to beat it out. He couldn't reach it. Within seconds, the small flame had caught the muslin drape. Within a minute, it had reached the canvas backdrops. The fly loft above the stage held 280 canvas and muslin drops, painted with oil-based paints, suspended on wooden battens, running on hemp ropes. When the fire reached them, it found a nearly unlimited fuel supply stretching 80 feet upward. The stage became a furnace. Eddie Foy was in the wings when the fire started. He walked out onto the stage, still in his ridiculous pantomime costume, and tried to calm the audience. "Don't panic," he called out. "Sit down, the fire is out. Everything is fine." It was not fine. Behind him, the fire was already completely out of control. A stagehand tried to drop the asbestos fire curtain. The curtain began to descend. Then it jammed. The cable clamp caught on the guide wire, stopping the curtain halfway down. A gap of several feet remained at the bottom, open to the stage. Someone backstage opened the large stage door leading to the alley, to escape. It was the right instinct for the stagehands. It was catastrophic for the audience. The rush of cold winter air through the open stage door hit the fire in the fly loft and created a backdraft. A massive ball of flame, superheated gas that had been building in the enclosed space above the stage, exploded outward through the gap at the bottom of the jammed curtain and rolled into the auditorium. The fireball traveled across the ceiling at hundreds of degrees. It incinerated the air itself. People in the upper balconies were killed almost instantly. People in the lower sections died of smoke inhalation within seconds. The entire event, from the first spark to the fireball rolling into the auditorium, took approximately 12 minutes. Part 4. The Doors. The 2,000 people in the Iroquois Theater had approximately 30 seconds of warning, between the moment they understood the fire was serious and the moment the fireball entered the auditorium. 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, 2,000 panicked people tried to reach the doors. What they found at the doors is the true story of the Iroquois Theater fire. At the main entrance, the grand lobby through which most of them had entered, the doors opened outward into the street. These doors functioned correctly, but the lobby was narrow, and when 2,000 people tried to move through it simultaneously, the crush became fatal. People were trampled. People were suffocated by compression. People at the front could not move forward because the pressure of the crowd behind them prevented anyone from opening the doors. At the side exits, the doors that led to the alleys, the situation was worse. Many of these doors were fitted with the bascule locks. In the dark, in the smoke, in the panic, with people pressing from behind, no one could figure out how to open them. Bodies piled up against doors that would not open. Some exits were hidden behind the velvet curtains that matched the theater's decor. People pressed against the walls, feeling for doors, finding only fabric. In the upper balconies, the situation was catastrophic. The gallery was packed with working-class families. The exits from the gallery led to narrow fire escapes on the exterior of the building. The fire escapes were icy from the winter cold. People crowded onto them and in their panic pushed those ahead of them off the edges. Bodies fell into the alley below. Some of the gallery exits led not to fire escapes, but to sheer drops into the alley. No stairs, no ladders, nothing. People opened these doors in the darkness and smoke, and simply fell. The fire companies arrived within minutes. There was almost nothing to do. The fire on the stage had burned itself out with terrifying speed. The auditorium itself had not burned significantly. The killing had been done by smoke, by the fireball, and by the doors. The fire companies found the theater full of the dead and dying. In the upper balconies, bodies were stacked against the exit doors 3 and 4 deep. In the aisles, people lay where they had fallen. In some sections of the upper balcony, rescuers found that everyone was dead. 602 people died in the Iroquois Theater fire. It is the deadliest single-building fire in American history. Deadlier than the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. Deadlier than the Coconut Grove. Deadlier than any theater fire before or since on American soil. 212 of the dead were children. Part 5. What the investigation found. The investigation found nothing complicated. The asbestos curtain had jammed because of a poorly fitted cable clamp. Any competent inspector could have identified it as a problem. It had never been tested under actual conditions. The ventilation skylight above the stage had no functional opening mechanism. The smoke and superheated gas that should have vented upward had nowhere to go. The bascule locks on the exit doors were illegal under Chicago's fire ordinance. They should never have been installed. The fire hoses backstage were not connected to the water supply. They had never been connected. They were decorative. The theater had 30 exits marked on the architect's plans. On the day of the fire, many of them were locked, blocked, or inaccessible. The theater was operating at over its legal capacity. The fire marshal had known about every single deficiency before the theater opened. He had set a list of required corrections. The corrections had not been made. None of this was hidden. None of it was secret. It had all been known before December 30th, 1903. Part 6. The Reckoning That Wasn't. The grand jury indicted the theater owners for manslaughter. It was the right call. It was also meaningless. The manslaughter charges were dismissed before trial. The judge ruled that the prosecution had failed to establish that the defendants had personally and directly caused the deaths. A standard of proof so narrow that it effectively made corporate manslaughter impossible to prosecute. The charges against the city officials were also dismissed. Not a single person was convicted of any crime. In connection with the deaths of 602 people, civil suits were filed, settled quietly, for small amounts. The theater's owners had insurance. The insurance paid. The owners paid little. The Iroquois Theater was repaired and reopened. It was renamed the Colonial Theater. It operated for decades. The stage where 602 people died became a stage again, and audiences came to see shows. And the management moved on. The owners of the Iroquois Theater knew the doors were wrong. They knew the curtain was untested. They knew the hoses weren't connected. They knew the capacity was over the legal limit. They knew the fire marshal had sent a list of corrections they had not made. They knew. They chose. They profited. And when 602 people died, they walked away. Epilogue. The Iroquois Theater no longer exists. The building on Randolph Street was eventually demolished. In its place stands a theater that has hosted Broadway productions for over a century. If you stand on the sidewalk outside on a winter afternoon, you are standing where the bodies of the dead were laid out on December 30th, 1903. There is a small plaque. Most people walk past it without stopping. Margaret Fleming, age 7. Thomas Duffy, age 11. Clara Wentworth, age 34. Elizabeth Harrington, age 42, and 598 others. The men who owned the theater continued in the theater business. They produced other shows. They made other money. On a cold Tuesday afternoon in December, 2,000 women and children went to see a show. 602 of them did not come home. The doors were locked, the curtain jammed, the hoses weren't connected. Everyone knew. 602 dead, 212 of them children. The deadliest theater fire in American history. Not one criminal conviction. The absolutely fireproof Iroquois Theater. Remember the Iroquois,